Drama is a very important part of our lives, and there's been different ways in which this has been used, both in education and in worship. At different times of year in the Christian calendar, for example, at Easter and at Christmas, it's not uncommon to have not a reading done by one person from the pulpit, but a reading done by several people, because you're reading a story, and one of the readers may be the narrator, but when one of the people in the narration speaks out, then another person in the church will be actually reading those lines. And this is a type of drama. It's a way of bringing to life what happened. And it's not a play or a skit, it's more of a reading, and it can take on a very exciting and moving dimension that you wouldn't get by just having one person read the scripture. In a similar way, in training, we're able to use techniques like role-playing and improvisation, or sometimes called simulation, in order to get more participation of our trainees in the process of learning. For example, let's say that we're doing some training in negotiating skills, and we're trying to teach NGO managers to be better negotiators. Well, you could set up a role play where you have one person acting as a donor, another person acting as a government, another person acting as beneficiaries, and then a fourth person taking on the role of the NGO. And you can put forward a certain resolution or something that needs to be debated among these different people. Perhaps it's going to be, let's say, the price of agricultural produce coming from the fields of the beneficiaries. And we have others, like people from government, people from NGOs, people from donors who have been investing and making social investments. Now, we put that into a role play. It's a very, very interesting, it's very entertaining, it's so many things can come out, but I must say it's unpredictable. It's not like a lecture which is written down ahead of time and you know what you're telling people and what your 3 points are in a sermon. Role-playing puts the power in the hands of the trainees. It's very high risk, if you like, for the trainer, and yet when it's done right and when people really get involved, it has high dividends as a technique for training. The same goes for simulation. Now, a few examples come to mind. For example, let's say we're teaching people how to hold meetings, or even more specifically, board meetings. Then you could use a simulation where you appoint different people from the trainees to sit around a table. You indicate who's going to be chairing the meeting. You indicate who's going to be the secretary, and you put a resolution in front of them for them to discuss. And again, it's hilarious at times, it's very entertaining, but it means that the learners are involved in learning how to run a meeting, because you can stop that simulation and then talk about with the others. This is sort of like a fishbowl, sometimes called, where the simulation is happening and there's a wider group of people in the audience around, but they are the ones who are going to be learning and observing and giving feedback. We've done some very interesting simulations as well in teaching people how to collect their debts in micro-enterprise program, which is a kind of development approach. And what we found is that to have somebody as a borrower and somebody as a lender in a simulation within the context of a large training about microenterprise or microcredit, that's very useful, and people begin to get the skills and acquire the practical and face the issues that they're going to be facing when they really get to the field. So these are very useful techniques that can be used by trainers, and they need to be part of the portfolio of techniques that you use.